Yeah, someone said sympathy is more out of pity and just sharing the feeling without understanding. Feeling is giving to other people how we want. I mean, not exactly how we want, but understanding what they feel more than giving them what they want. So empathy is also, 1 second, my chat is stuck in the middle. Yes. Empathy is basically the ability to completely be with someone else, you know, to fully immerse myself in someone else's inner mind, inner world. It means I'm actually getting into the frame of reference of the actual client, you know, so I'm actually feeling what they feel. So it's the capacity to identify myself mentally and fully with them, and then get into their frame of reference. So see the world how they see it, not how I see it. So how they experience it, what they think about the rain, what they think about summer, what they experience, more than my own frame. Empathy is also the ability to perceive another's experience and then communicate it back. So here we said empathetic understanding. So communicating back that perception back to them to clarify their own experience and meaning. And just like we talked about yesterday, you know, a big part of, you know, restating or reflection is not just, you know, for us to make the client feel like they're understood, but it's also for us to make sure that the information that we gathered from the client is actually correct, that it's right, that, you know, we did gather right information, that, you know, this is how they're actually feeling, that, you know, I am getting their feelings accurately, rather than assuming something based on my own biases or my own judgment. Empathy is not identifying with the client. So it's not, oh, I feel you, I've been through the same thing, this happened in my wedding too, or so on. No, it's not identifying, it's not sharing a similar experience. It's seeing things from their unique perspective or their frame of reference. Often a complication with empathy can be is when we are counseling a client that could have similar experiences or lifestyle or life experiences or ways of thinking to us. That can actually make it more complicated, because then falling into the trap of identification can be, you know, really common. So it's really important in that way to constantly be separating. Okay, this is not me, this is them, this is how they're experiencing it, this is how they feel about it, and it has nothing to do with me. So we're going to talk about striving for accurate empathy. Okay. So accurate empathy is basically achieved when we see the client's world from their perspective and we're able to communicate this understanding back. Exactly, you know, or at least as much as possible, as exact as possible. So there are two types of accurate empathy. So we have primary accurate empathy and advanced accurate empathy. So primary accurate empathy involves me basically communicating to the client a basic understanding of what they're feeling, a basic understanding of their experiences and behaviors that they feel behind these feelings. So what are the experiences and behaviors that could be leading to the client feeling this way, you know? So for instance, an example of primary accurate empathy is the client says, you know, I'm really feeling like I can't do anything for myself. And the counselor replies, you're feeling helpless, you know? So that's an accurate empathy of what the client is feeling, you know? The client feels they can't do anything, so that's them feeling helpless, you know? This is really important because it helps strengthen the counseling relationship, gather data, and actually clarify, you know, the problem. The second type of accurate empathy is advanced accurate empathy. So it reflects not only what clients state overtly, but also what they imply or state incompletely. So it requires like a deeper understanding of the client's emotions, a deeper understanding of maybe the tension in the room or the feelings in the room or the energy in the room or what the client's actually feeling rather than just the words they're saying. So, you know, the client here saying, you know, I hope everything will work out, while, you know, looking off into the space. So the counselor here says, or if it doesn't, you're not sure what you will do next. So, you know, they're almost a step ahead. You know, they're knowing where the client is going, what they mean by what they said. So it's a deeper understanding of what they're implying without them saying it completely. Any questions about the differences between these two? As counselors, should our approach be more formal and not an informal conversational style? I think that depends from counselor to counselor, but I think let's define, what do you mean by informal? Does it mean like, hey, what's up? Or, you know, what's informal, you know? I definitely, in my approach with my clients, I'm very much myself, you know? I might be like a calmer version of me because, you know, I'm more focused on them because, you know, like I told you guys yesterday, I talk a lot, but in sessions, you know, I'm more focused on them talking and being there for them. But I feel one of the things that makes my clients very comfortable is, you know, I'm not so formal and stiff, so it feels very warm for them and they feel heard, you know? We separate our entities to us. There's a difference between relatability and identification. Identification, here we are talking about the process or the processing of the actual client. This isn't about the outward relationship between you and the counselor, you and the client, but we're talking about the relationship between how you are processing your work. So like, let's say for instance, I'm doing process notes. The process notes are notes that we write after a session, you know? So I need to make sure that whatever feelings let's say for instance, my client has, you know, a mother that yells at them, and my mother yells at me all the time, you know? I need to make sure that when I am writing my process notes, or even when I'm in the session with them, that I'm not getting lost in my own emotions or my own feelings. That's what we mean when we separate. It doesn't mean I'm not warm. It doesn't mean I'm not genuine. It doesn't mean I'm not who I am. Congruence, we're not really going to discuss congruence because there wasn't time for it. But congruence, which refers to authenticity in a client, to being in a counselor, to being your true self, is a key aspect of every client to be genuine. Because if I'm not bringing my genuine self into the counseling room, if I'm putting on this fake persona or making myself, you know, this expert or so on, then my client's not going to feel comfortable. My client's not going to be able to bring their genuine self, you know, and it's not going to be a relationship that can be very strong or can really lead to healing, because we won't be able to dig that deep together. We won't have that trust built. Does that make sense? Perfect. So the next thing that we just talked about now, building rapport and trust. So developing a relationship of trust with our client through active listening, reflecting on their thoughts and issues, and summarizing what we actually hear them say, empathizing with them, and sitting with and feeling their pain. So basically all the things that we just mentioned, you know? So a big part of the process of building that trust, I would also add being genuine, so what we just referred to. But a big part of developing a relationship of trust would be through me actively listening to the client, reflecting on their thoughts, summarizing what I hear for my understanding and to show them that I've understood them, empathizing with them, and sitting with their pain. Rapport actually means or refers to actually developing a connection with the person, you know? In this, the client will actually feel that they can trust you and that you somewhat get them, you know? Actually, any questions on building trust and rapport before we move on to the next section? Okay, let's move. So unconditional positive regard. This is one of the hardest things, I think, for people to understand. And I think it's one of the hardest things to apply as counselors. So Unconditional positive regard refers to me non-judgmentally accepting and supporting another exactly as they are, without me evaluating them or judgment. Again, with unconditional positive regard, just like empathy, it's not enough for me to feel that I'm non-judgmental and accepting. I also need to show the clients that I feel like that. So it's the demonstration of my acceptance of the clients for who they are. One of the ways this is done by me expressing warmth and respect for the client regarding of what they say, regarding of their actions. This way I can help them promote to their own sense of self-worth and set them on the path to personal growth. This is really important, especially because in societies like ours, so, you know, Middle Eastern traditional societies like ours, there can be a lot of judgment from others in society. So a lot of us may experience judgment a lot in our lives, even from our parents. So it's really key that we are able to create a whole non-judgment space for our clients, because that's the most important and most conducive thing for our clients to heal. Another key aspect is actually it's not about liking a client or accepting everything they have done. If my client says they committed infidelity or is a pedophile, you know, or I mean, a pedophile is a strong example, but you know, or anything, it's not about me accepting or liking what they've done, but it's about respecting them as a human being with their own free will, as long as what they're doing is legal, obviously, but with their own free will and operating under the assumption that he or she is doing their best. So it's about me non-judgmentally accepting that, you know, this is how the client is, this is how they've lived their life, this is what they're doing, and I respect that these are their decisions, their choices, and my job is not to enforce my own moral values on the client, but rather to support them in their process of healing to achieve their goals, not goals I determine for them. So for instance, if a client tells me, and I don't pray, for instance, and they're Muslim, it's not my job to make them pray. That's not my job as a counselor. That's me putting my own values on them. It's my job as a counselor would be to support them through how they feel about it and help them get to a healthy resolution of it, whether that means they pray and become more religious, whether that means they become more liberal and they don't pray. Any questions on what I just said? Okay. No questions so far. So why is unconditional positive regard so important in the counseling room? What, if you guys remember what Rogers was saying yesterday in the video, he was referring to it as one of the most key aspects for change, that non-judgmental acceptance. And for anyone who watched the video yesterday, imagine if Gloria walked into the room and Rogers was very judgmental, or she felt like he was judging her for, you know, her sexual behavior or lying to her daughter or all that kind of stuff. What do you think would have happened? No, it's not okay to say, would you? Someone said, is it okay to say, oh, sorry. You said, would you feel better if you pray? I think it depends on the client and what they're saying, but I would steer away from saying things that could make them feel guilty, because there's a lot of guilt about praying and not being religious. So that could just add to that guilt. And it's not our job to be the religious, so on. It's our job to help support them through whatever they are going through. So I would go lightly. And just in the sense, because we're talking about religion, if a client is already religious and they are bringing that into the counseling room, I mean, recent research in psychology has shown that spirituality plays a big role for helping us have higher quality of life and subjective well-being. So if they are religious, or if that is a thing, then you can work with that. But the point is, you need to be working through their own values, not enforcing your values on them. So, like we said, why is unconditional positive regard important in the counseling room? So it's been suggested that unconditional positive regard is actually a substitute. for the unconditional positive regard that we did not get from our parents, other adults in childhood. So Rogers actually believed that those who don't receive it from their parents at a young age are more likely to have low self-worth and are less likely to get to their full potential in terms of personal development. This also links to a lot of other theories. So this can be done in different theories. Rogers just says it in a very simplified way, so I used him. But in psychodynamic theory, so psychodynamic object relations theory is a theory that emerged from psychoanalysis, which was what Freud was talking about. But they adapted it because they thought a lot of what Freud was saying didn't make sense. So they adapted it and changed it. And basically, it explains that we relate to the world through objects. So like we are all objects, and it's all about how relationships impact us in our day-to-day life, you know? So they actually believe that it's the job of the therapist to provide for all the things in terms of empathy, support, unconditional acceptance, a safe environment. It's the job of the therapist to provide that for the client. It's the job of the therapist to compensate for anything that the client did not get as a child. So that's a very, very key aspect in terms of understanding why this is important. Okay. So someone said, in counseling, is it crucial to say yes more to the client? And how do we come about telling them something is wrong without hurting their feelings? I mean, well, what are you talking about something is wrong? Like something is wrong from your moral values? I mean, is it your moral values? Is it so on? Because even when we're working with people who do self-harm, for instance, we're not telling them self-harm is wrong, this is bad. We reflect, but what would happen if someone found out? Are you okay with this? How do you feel that you are harming yourself or hurting yourself? Or how do you feel that you're committing this thing that you could get consequences in the law for? It's more about reflecting, not about enforcing and placing our judgment. It's not our place to tell our clients they are right or wrong. They need to come to that conclusion by themselves. And trust me, if you're counseling them effectively and really present with them and supporting them, they will get there. But it's about being patient and waiting for them to get there themselves, rather than you enforcing your values and beliefs on them. Is that okay? That's clear? Okay. So it's actually been, so it's really, really important to understand this point, that it's really important for us to compensate and to create that non-judgmental environment for our clients. Okay, so 1 second, my screen is stuck. Zoom is messing with us today. Okay, I think I'm gonna start opening the chat at the end because it keeps making my screen stuck when I open a chat. 1 second. So I'll just keep some of the questions for later. Please try to speak if you can, because it's easier to conduct the workshop this way. Okay, so other reasons why unconditional positive regard is important in the counseling room. So having this attitude towards the client can encourage them to share their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors more openly. So them feeling this acceptance can be so helpful for that healing process. A client that comes in that's afraid that, you know, the therapist is going to be shocked or offended or judgmental, you know, would likely not be very forthcoming with any information that they feel may be perceived as negative or, you know, unacceptable, you know. And the fact is, what's going to happen if your client doesn't feel safe and he or she doesn't feel like this is a safe and accepting environment that they can tell you whatever they feel, and they withhold information that could be important, this can actually have a very negative impact on the therapeutic relationship in terms of you understanding the client, in terms of the healing process. in terms of a lot of things that the client may be wanting to gain, you know? So this is a key one, because I often hear when people are talking about counseling, they're like, oh, you know, with counseling, you know, I'm going to use this skill on this person, and I'm going to use this skill on this person, and so on. And I think it's really important as a practitioner to be more holistic, in the sense of realizing it's not a set of techniques that you're just applying. It's not a robotic mechanical process. These are people you are working with. You know, you are with them. This is a relationship you're creating. So it's not me applying skills onto a client, but rather a way of being with the client, you know, a way of, you know, naturally empathizing because I want to care, because I want to solve, naturally having that non-judgmental stance with them, you know, training myself and putting myself into a kind of mindset where I'm already giving them that without me thinking, okay, right now I'll do unconditional positive regard, and then later on I'm going to do listening. You know, it doesn't work like that. It has to be a holistic approach to seeing the client and their issues as a whole, and really having in our hearts to want to support them and help them through it. Okay, so now we were going to do a bit of discussion. What do you do if you disagree with the client's moral values or actions? If you think they're doing something entirely wrong. Let's say your client's telling you that that they're, you know, they're cheating on their wife with her sister, who's already married. What do you do? Do you guys want to go into breakout rooms to discuss it, or do you want to discuss it in a big group? I don't mind either option. Can we vote? Free discussion here? Okay, but you have to talk out loud if you want to do the discussion. So someone said, Hanina said, asking them if that is correct doing it. Okay, maybe not using the word correct, but asking them how they feel doing it, and do they think that doing that fits their own moral values, for instance. We are not involved our values. Okay, so what do you say?
Ma'am, I would like to put in some words. I think when a client is talking to us, first things first, we have to be very understanding. So I think empathy works best because we're trying to put ourselves into their inner mind, as you mentioned before. And that brings, like, that makes them more forthcoming to us they would like to see us as a friend or someone they can confide in without feeling like they are being judged. So that makes it easier for them to open up. Number one, doesn't matter if it's a criminal activity they have been doing or morally if they have been doing something wrong. But as soon as we show any kind of expression, be it facial, verbal, whatever be it, I think it will put them in a box and they will not try to come out of their comfort zone to talk to us. So if we disagree, as you said, we have to be non-judgmental. And that means that we have to just be good listeners at first. I think that's the first way of coming, is be good listeners without showing any kind of disagreement, so that they are more opening. And then finally you can build some trust with them, and as you said, be genuine towards their feelings, which might help them to open up without disagreeing.
So what would you say to this client? Putting you on the spot.
No problem. I like role playing. I think I would say, does it make you feel good? Does your actions make you feel better by doing them? Do you feel Do you feel good at what you're doing, like without trying to make them feel like they are bad or they're doing something bad? Yeah. Maybe I'll ask them, does it make you feel worthy, valuable to the society, but by what you're doing?
I wouldn't put worth there, because worth could bounce back
Yeah.
at you, and actually put that idea in their head and be like, what? Does this make me not worthy? If she's saying this, it means she thinks I'm not worthy, you know? So I would be careful with words like that. But I definitely think you're right in terms of exploration.
Yeah. That's my bit.
Okay, nice. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. We can move on. So, what are some key tips when we're using counseling skills? Like we said, be genuine. If you don't understand, it's okay. Like a lot of times, like therapists are like pretending they understand what their clients are saying. Oh, he'll think I'm not listening, or oh, you know, maybe they think, you know, I'm not smart or whatever, or, you know, our ego comes in. No, it's fine. Sometimes we're all humans. We're all flawed. Sometimes we're going to get it. Sometimes we're not, you know? So it's important to kind of be genuine. If I don't understand, and it's okay to check and ask for further information, you know, to check back and ask, okay, how are you feeling? Okay, so when you said this, did you actually mean this? Or, you know, I'm not sure I really understood this, you know, could you clarify this further? That's all okay. The main thing is to actually understand them, not to show, oh, you know, I'm this amazing therapist that understands everything, you know? Second tip is to try to be brief when you're reflecting back. So the speaker should actually be doing most of the talking, not you. Another key skill to do is to use your own words to reflect back, to avoid sounding like a parrot. And I talked about this yesterday. So if the client says, you know, I feel angry, I feel angry, I feel angry, I feel angry, you know, there's constantly saying, they're like, oh, you must feel angry. You know, the client must be like, yeah, I've been saying this for like an hour, you know, and they're like gonna feel like, oh, maybe you're not listening or you're just parroting. So that's why the skill of paraphrasing is very important, because we're showing them that we understood the words by using our own words. Like we're showing them that we understand what they're saying or what they're feeling by reflecting it using our own words. Another one that was just mentioned now by one of our fellow people is avoid using a shocked or disbelieving tone of voice, because they're not going to feel safe. They're going to feel judged. It might, you know, bring up other issues that they have. It might indicate that the speaker is unacceptable, or they're odd, or they're not okay, or, you know, they're not worthy, or, you know, something like that.
Sura, I actually have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
So one of the problems that I face is sometimes that they demand for you
an answer.
They demand for you to tell them what to do. Like, what do you do? What do you
every
do?
day of my entire life? Yeah.
So sometimes I sort of try to elaborate from the beginning what my role is going to be. That I'm not going to be your coach. I'm not going to be your guide. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But some of them are sort of eager that me as a person, what would you do in this situation? Tell me what to do, and I'll just do what you're doing, and then we'll just try that out. And it's like a friend asking someone for advice rather than the counseling. So
except you're not their friend.
Exactly. So they sort of, I don't know, I feel that sometimes they don't understand what counseling is and therapy is sometimes. So that's why I spend a lot of time explaining what it is. But some of them are really, really eager to know what you're thinking about and what would you do? Like what is right? Like tell me what to do. And it's like being eager to tap into your own morals and values rather than figure it out on their own. And then and they sort of become really I don't know, they question your own moral values rather than exploring themselves. So how would you deal with such a situation? How do you deal with people that are so eager to find out about you, and what would you do based on your own morals and values?
I mean, it honestly also depends on how strong my relationship is with the client, because sometimes I can get away with certain things, sometimes I can't. Like I adjust according to client. But I mean, there are different approaches that I go from. Definitely psychoeducation, like what you just referred to, is really good. My first thing is what I explain, and I always explain this a lot. And like, if I tell you the answers, you're gonna come to me for the rest of your life. Like, I try to say it in a light way. Like, you know, like if I tell you the answer to this, you're gonna come to me for the rest of life. Do you want to be dependent on me? Like, do you want to come to me? You know, my job is to empower you. I don't know what's right for you. You know, you know what's right for you. You are the expert of your own life. All I'm doing is I'm guiding you and helping you get to where you need to go. But you have the answers. I don't. You know. And then, so that's sometimes what I explain. Sometimes I explain that, I mean, I generally try not to bring in my moral values here. I mean, I generally try not to answer that. Sometimes, depending on the client, I will actually be reflecting on why it's very important for them to know my moral values. Okay. I'm like, because sometimes they're actually afraid that you're counseling them and you're not someone who's like them, you know?
Yeah.
So like, oh, what if she's giving me wrong advice? You know, because, you know, they might not realize it's not advice and that the counselor's values are not important. So sometimes I reflect back, okay, so why is it important for you to feel like, to know mine? You know, I'm an entirely different person. My life experiences are different. My beliefs might be different. The way I see the world is different, you know? Yeah. So anything I give you will not actually help you. It might actually confuse you further, you know? And depending, sometimes it's about trust. So I dig deep into that. I'm like, does it feel like you can trust me more if you know my moral values? If I feel that's what they're really looking for, you know, does it feel like you might not be able to trust me as much, or you worry that my different values might interfere in our, you know, therapeutic setting? Yeah. So I mean, there's no one size fits all answer. Yeah. But I think these are generally the answers. But I would say the most common one is the psychoeducation one. So I usually respond that way. You know, that counseling that's not what counseling is like. If it was, then it's not going to be healing for you because you're going to be dependent on me, you know, and I'm not the expert, you are, you know. But I also, in the beginning of my counseling sessions, I actually explained this quite in detail in my first session. Yeah. How it's going to work. Because you know, a lot of practitioners use CBT here. So it's a lot like, do this. And that's not actually how I work. Like, I use CBT. But I'm very, you know, like relational therapist, so a lot of person-centered, gestalt, psychodynamic, so on. So a lot of it in therapy is me actually just, you know, being with them. And so I go through the whole psychoeducation aspect of it, of how it's going to help you, my approach, and are you okay with this? Yeah. You know, and then usually I bring up, you know, remember in the first session, you know, I explained this, and really this is for your benefit, so on, so on. They might not like it. Yeah, definitely. You know, but honestly, over time, I always find they're like, you know, when the clients are done or so on, they're like, thank you. You know, you helped me build myself up rather than me depending on you, you know, which is very important. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. Okay, cool. So I actually think I'm going to answer the other questions now. If anyone has any more questions before we do the next part. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So I'm going to put you guys into breakout rooms right now. And, oh wait, are there questions here? Cannot access the chat for now, better to, okay. So one of the most important things for the therapist accepts the person. Yes, that's the most important thing, yeah. And you don't want to have an argument with the client. Okay. Any more questions, ask me. And we can do this later on then. So I'm actually gonna put everyone into groups of 3. Just give me a second. And the last group, you're going to have to split in between. So I'm going to put 6 of you together. And you're going to just have to split it in between. So what we're going to be doing now is we're all going to practice on each other. So one person is going to be the observer. You're just observing for 5 minutes. One person is going to be the client. One person is going to be the counselor. So I want everyone to think of a problem, and everyone can do the counselor role for 5 minutes. And I'm going to come in on your group now. Each group, I'm going to come in now to make sure that this is clear.
Hello, Nura. Hello. Whatever is comfortable for you, Nora. Do you want to talk by your mic, or do you want to talk in your chat? Okay. There are 2 people that need to join, so we'll just wait for them. Okay. Do you have a specific problem that we should try? A specific situation that you went through, and something that you've seen in a clinic or something? Specific problem that always occurs? But this is like a small room, like a temporary room where you can practice, but it's like a little group. So basically, all of the room and all of the groups divided into 5 rooms. Each room you can talk and practice, and then you can go back to the big group. So it's just basically so we can practice, and then we can go back to the big group. But the point of this exercise is for us to try to be counselor and client, and just practice what we did. So we're gonna have to act out a case. So is there a specific case or a teenager, drugs, anything, anxiety, corona anxiety, maybe anything specific that you want as an example? Corona anxiety. Okay. So since the other people didn't join, so let's just try. But do you want to be the client or the counselor? Client. Okay. So okay, let's just wait for the rest just to see. I don't know about the rest. Let's just wait. Okay. Hi. Theodore. I don't know how is that pronounced correctly or not, but we're waiting. Actually, we were waiting for a third person. So I'm Abir and this is Nora, and we want to practice. But I can be the observer, and Nora can be the client, and you can be the counselor. Is that okay? And do you prefer using the mic or do you prefer using the chat?
Hi.
Lala.
I see you guys are still muted. Okay. So is it clear what we're all going to do? Abir, you're taking part?
I'm trying to, because there's only two, so I'll try to just manage, but I think that
You can be the observer?
they're a bit shy, yeah, so they want to use the chat.
Okay, so this part of the counseling skills workshop is really key if you actually want to leave with skills. It's really important that you guys open the video. And the person left. He left us. Noura. So it's important. Noura, احنا بس بنات, we're just girls. It's me and Abira. I swear we're really cute and we're really nice. And then it's just important that you open your video so you can actually benefit from trying counseling skills with each other. Or then how are you going to do it in the real world, right? Okay, I'm going to see if I can add one more person here to the group.
There's breakout room 5 that have 5 people, so maybe that.
Yeah, I'll move Saeed, but also May has not joined anywhere. Breakout room 5, can you read the wasta?
ليش؟
The friends wanted to be together. ما قدرت أكسر خاطرهم.
حتى في breakout rooms يعني ملزوم.
Yeah. So
funny. It's like school all over again.
I know, so I thought it was like I can't أكسر خاطرهم. I felt bad. Okay, I'm trying to add May here. If not, I'll just add the person from breakout rooms. So, by the way, this exercise made a lot of people are resisting this. Which exercise? We are in breakout room 4. Okay. Okay, Saeed should join us. Hi, Saeed. Sorry, we moved you. We need an extra person. Do you guys understand what we have to do now? So I'm going to assign one of you as the client. Abid, how about you're the client or the counselor to help them show you? Yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay. So Abir is going to be the counselor. Okay. And Noura or Saeed, one of you is going to be the observer. One of you is going to be the client. If you guys don't vote now, I'm going to pick it. Okay. Noura, you're going to be the client. Saeed, you're going to be the observer. Okay. So Abir, you're good here? I can go check on the other groups?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead. Saeed, do you want to unmute yourself while you're insisting on using the chat? It's just that this workshop, if you really want to benefit from it and get some skills, it's better at least if you can unmute. But I don't want to push you, if you're not comfortable. So please let me know if you're not comfortable. It's totally fine. All right. Yeah. Saeed, are you with us? You can use the chat. You can use the chat to talk. Okay, that's fine. Noura, you're the client, so why don't you start? So is there something that you would want to start with? Yeah. Okay. So first of all, like in a counseling session, you would introduce yourself, obviously. So my name is Ivy. I'll be your counselor today. And how are you doing today? How's everything? Good. Yeah, that's good to hear. Now, Noura, you expressed that you've been facing some anxiety over Corona. Would you like to talk a bit about that today? About what you've been feeling? I think Saeed, I don't know if you can see it. If you can press everyone, Noura, if you can press the I don't know what to say. The chat is private to me. But if the chat is private to me, then Saeed cannot see. So if you can do it addressed to everyone, then that would be good. And May, they're ready, go. May, you can also be an observer, but if you'd like to unmute, if you're comfortable with that, then you can be the counselor and you can practice being the counselor. Is that okay? Okay. So Noura, I understand that you have corona anxiety and fear to go out and to meet anyone. That must be so hard. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm not seeing any videos open, guys.
All
the other groups are open. All of them are doing this.
We have a lot of shy people here.
Okay, Abir, let's demonstrate.
I'm talking to myself. It's Noura.
Abir, you're the counselor. I'm the client. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's demonstrate counseling skills. Although you guys need to get over your shyness if you want to work with people. Okay. Hi. I'm Sura.
Hi, Sura. How are you today?
I'm like so nervous because like I don't know what to talk about.
That's totally okay. We can talk about anything that you want to talk about today.
But like I don't know. I didn't even tell my mom that I'm like seeing a therapist because she would like freak out, you know, what did they think like, you know, there's jinn and something in me. So I don't know. Is it bad that I'm lying to my mom like about this? I don't know.
Well, I feel sorry that you have to hide such a thing from your mom. I understand that would be very difficult for you to experience such a thing. I'm sorry, my neck.
Yeah.
My,
Yeah, like, you know, like you would think I deserve to like help myself. Like, you know, like it's you know, I've been struggling, you know, I have like suicidal thoughts. You know, I keep thinking, you know, what'd be like if I wasn't around, or how much easier life would be if, you know, I wasn't here, you know?
that must be very difficult for you, Sura. You mentioned a couple of things that we could talk about today. Is there have these feelings been with you for a while, or is this a new feeling?
I mean, not a while, but I've been feeling like this for a year, you know? And like, I don't know, how is therapy even gonna help? Like what, I just talk and that's it, you know? I'm so, such a weird thing, and they were like a total stranger too, you know?
So my job here, I understand that it might be a bit confusing. You might understand therapy from films and movies or something that you might not actually understand or have experienced before. But I'm here to be as much of a guide as much as you want me to, and I'm here to provide you a safe space that we can talk about some of these things that you've been experiencing. It must be very difficult for you to experience such a thing, especially without a lot of people knowing. So thank you for actually giving me the privilege to know these things and to talk to you today. So I'm here to listen about these concerns.
But like, aren't you gonna get bored? Like, you must see people with like such bigger issues than my issue. Like, I feel like it's such a stupid thing. Like, like my mom keeps saying what I'm doing is haram, you know? Like, you know, that I have these thoughts, but I can't help it, you know? I just feel sad and depressed all the time.
Again, I understand how that would make you feel, and I understand how you can experience such sad feelings or uncomfortable feelings without you having someone that understands you. So again, I'm here to listen to you and to maybe work through some of the things that you've been experiencing. So I understand that some of the religious aspects that we've been experiencing, that we experience in our daily life, might make you feel like that. But I'm offering you a space that we can talk and work these things out.
I like your tone of voice. Like, it's very like soft and like nice. Like, it makes me feel like you wouldn't judge me, you know?
Thank you, and that's definitely what I'm here for you. And this is not a judgmental place. And it seems to me that you've been feeling a bit judged by your social network. Is that how you might be feeling these days?
Ah, like all the time, they're so judgmental. Oh my God. Like, I'm so tired of how judgmental they all are,
Must be
you
very
know?
tiring.
It is, but like, what am I gonna do, you know?
Yeah, but it shows that you've been really resilient and you've been very patient. So um, that must be very, that takes a lot from a person to be very patient and been experiencing these things. But you still chose to come to therapy today, and that means a lot. That actually means something. What do you think?
Thank you. You know, like now, you know, the session's ending, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I've been heard, and like I feel like this is, you know, a space, you know, I could come to, because like I felt like the way you were responding to me was so like gentle and kind, and you know, I didn't feel like you were judging me at all, and you know, I felt like you're really interested in listening to me, and you know, I don't get that a lot in my life, so you know, that's, you know, really important to me.
And I have the actual privilege of getting to know you, and I'm very proud the fact that you actually came to me, and it's a privilege of knowing you and being allowed to listen and be there for you. And I know that that must be really difficult to experience that you haven't experienced this before, or it's been lacking a bit for a while. But I want you to acknowledge the fact that you've made it today and you've came and you've talked, and that means a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See you next week.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, really, no one wants to try? You're missing out. حسيت كنا مدرسة.
You have to do a workshop on social anxiety or not toxic or something.
But you know the people, people don't attend workshops on social anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay, someone asked me for help. I'm gonna go break out room 5. Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much.
See if you can get the others to contribute and try it out, because you guys are gonna learn more through it. But at least we did the demo for you guys.
Yeah. Okay, so those that just observed, is there anyone else that wants to try out? Or I won't push anyone. I don't like to pressure people. But is there anyone that wants to try out, even if it's just voice? It doesn't have to be video. No, I would like to try to be the counselor. Okay, great. So you can unmute yourself. No? Me?
Hello.
Hi.
Forgive me. I might not talk. I'm not good in English speaking.
Okay. So we can actually try it in Arabic. Noura and Saeed, I'm assuming you're Arab. So we can actually بنسوي بالعربي يعني إذا أنتم مرتاحين عادي. توقعت إن نتكلم عربي ما في حد إنجليزي هنا. Yeah. بقية نورا وسعيد إذا ممكن بس توضحوا إذا عادي بالعربي. نورا تقول أوكي. سعيد الجهوري أكيد يعني يعرف عربي. يلا ما مشكلة حتى كتب اسمه بالعربي. أكيد. ميز عادي بالعربي.
اوكي. كيف نبدأ؟ ايش المشكلة؟
أنا بجيك وراح أكون العميل. وأنتي ممكن تكوني المعالجة. تمام؟ أوكي. فالسلام عليكم. أنا اسمي عبير وأنا حاسة بكثير من المخاوف خلال هذه الفترة، لأنه واجد خايفة إن أنا أنصاب بكورونا وما عارفة إيش أسوي، لأن كورونا كله أفكر بكورونا، ما أنام، ما أسوي شيء. إيش أسوي؟ ما أعرف.
اوكي. وعليكم السلام. أهلا فيك عبير. إيش المشكلة اللي تعاني منها؟
خبرتك يعني المشكلة إن أنا عندي أنا واجد أخاف إن أنا أصاب بكورونا، كله أشوف على الأخبار وما أنام الليل، لأن بس كله أظل أفكر إنه بنصاب بكورونا وما عارفة إيش أسوي. يعني الأفكار ما تتوقف من راسي. إيش أسوي؟
إيش نوع الأفكار اللي تفكرين فيهن؟ مثل إيش؟
أفكر إنه يعني أنا عندي من الأمراض المزمنة، وإذا انصبت بكورونا أنا بموت خلاص. يعني أنا لازم أحمي نفسي وبموت.
نورا ممكن يفيد أكثر إن تسأليها، ما تسأليها so many questions about it, بس to actually be reflecting في هالpoint about how she's feeling. Because if you keep asking her, هي بتوصل مرحلة at this point بتوصل مرحلة she's just talking about death and corona وكذا, which is fine. But it seems in here she needs to feel that you're hearing her emotions. So it's about the feeling and reflecting how she's feeling. أنت خايفة، عندك واجد خوف. شكل هذا الخوف is overwhelming you. You feel overwhelmed وكذا وكذا. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I can't see your face, but I guess, yeah, you're smiling back at me. And then, okay, keep going.
Okay. فمي أنا واجد حاسة إنه أنا خايفة، وبس أنا أفكر إن أنا بموت. أنا بيجيني كورونا بموت، ما عارفة إيش أسوي. ما أنام، أفكر ما عارفة.
أكيد شعور صعب ومتعب. إنه يوميا يعني فيك هذه الأفكار المخيفة والمقلقة. إيش بعد ممكن نقول؟
هي واجد الأفكار، لكن المشكلة إن أنا مهما شغلت نفسي مهما سويت كل الأفكار تجي، يعني ما أقدر أوقف الأفكار، أبى أنام أبى أوقف عقلي، ما عارفة إيش أسوي.
صعب دائما هي على بالي إني أسأل، صعب شوي الموضوع.
عشان كده تتدربي. فاين.
أكثر شيء أبى أسأل يعني
إيش بيفيدك السؤال؟
إنه مثلا في مثلا تحسين أعراض جسدية أو شيء من كثرة التفكير. مثلا وقت ما تكون يعني يكون يعني عندك تفكير مفرط، إيش ممكن تسوين؟ في عندك هوايات مثلا عشان تسوين distraction، تشتيت للتفكير.
أيوة أنا عندي
أيوة.
واجد هوايات. أنا عندي واجد هوايات، لكن الكورونا في كل مكان، والكورونا شاغل بالي، وكل مرة أنا أفتح التلفزيون ولا أفتح الانستغرام كورونا، وأنا أحس إنه ما قادرة أنام، ولحتى لما أنا أجي أنام أحاول إني أوقف الأفكار بس ما توقف.
هو صح الكورونا، يعني أخبار الكورونا في كل مكان، وشيء متعب ومقلق يعني مع فوق إنه يعني الموضوع مخيف، فوق إن الموضوع مخيف في يعني أشياء خارجية تحفز هذا الخوف. فعشان كذي نحن محتاجين نشتت تفكيرنا، محتاجين نوقف الأشياء اللي تحفز هذا التفكير المفرط.
نورة تريد تكوني كونسلر مساعد؟ انزين نورة جربي، لكن بالمايك لو سمحتي.
خلاص خليها تكمل، يعني لما تخلص أنا بكمل معاش.
خلاص ما مشكلة، كملي نورة عشان نخلص، قريب نخلص الجلسة. يلا.
نبدأ من أول.
نورة نفس المشكلة، فأنا واجد ما قادرة أنام والأفكار ما جالسة تتوقف، وأنا أفكر إنه أنا خلاص بموت إذا جاتني كورونا لأن عندي مرض مزمن. إيش أسوي؟
يعني أنا حاسة بهذا الشعور، لأنه يعني الجميع يعني يخاف من كورونا الحين وخايف، لكن هذا الشيء يعني المفروض إنه ما يستمر معاش، لأنه يعني إذا جلستي بهذا الشعور ممكن ليش توقفي، خلاص ما تكملي حياتك، ممكن ما تنامي يعني، لأن عندك هالشيء أصلاً already. فنحن محتاجين منك الحين إنه تتعايشي يعني مع كورونا، تكملي حياتك يعني تسوي الاحترازات.
كيف أكمل حياتي إذا أنا جيت أنا خايفة كل وقت طول الأفكار تجي وما قادرة إنه أنام، وأريد أنام وأفكر إنه إذا طلعت برا أو احتكي مع أحد بموت.
أيوة ترى ممكن مثلا تسوي الهوايات اللي تحبيهم، مثلا ممكن إن تكوني مع أهلك تجلسي معاهم، وحتى لو طلعتي يعني اتبعي كل الإجراءات الاحترازية، مثلا لبسي الكمام، سوي المعقم، خلي يكون معاش يعني، لكن ما إنه يكون شيء أوفر، يعني إنه مثلا طول الوقت تعقمي إيدك، لا يعني. فمثلا لو طلعتي برا حاولي إنه ما أبدا يعني مثلا لما تلمسي شيء أو شيء سوي معقم، يعني تتجنبي. بنفس الوقت يعني لما تكوني في البيت يعني حاولي ما تجلسي مع نفسك مثلا بغرفة منعزلة، عشان ما تفكري طول الوقت كورونا كورونا كورونا. جلسي مع أهلك، حاولي تشغلي نفسك يعني قبل النوم مثلا.
أيوة مشكلة في الليل.
زين قبل النوم مثلا أقري مثلا الأذكار، يعني شتتي نفسك بحيث إنه قبل النوم ما تفكري بكورونا، يعني ما تفكري. كملي أسمعش.
تحسي نورة إنك كان صحيح إن ننصح بالدين شيء دنيوي ديني؟
يعني أحس عادي أحيانا مثلا تقري الأذكار. هو صح إنه مثلا يعني أوكي إنه مثلا ما كل حد يتقبل.
بالضبط، ما أنا قصدي كذا.
أيوة أوكي، أنا عارفة إنه ما ممكن كل حد يتقبل، لكن يعني هذه وسيلة مثلا ترى إن أنا أنصح الكلاينت إنه مثلا يقرأ أو إنه يستمع لشيء أو إنه يسوي شيء يعني قبل النوم. بنفس الوقت يعني عادي أحس إني أنصح إنه يقرأ أذكار. أنا كذا أحس يعني.
يمكن هو ما عنده أي دين، يعني ما
زين أوكي، ممكن إذا ما عنده ارتباط ديني مثلا ممكن إنه يسمع موسيقى تهديه، ولا ممكن إنه يشوف فيلم قبل ما ينام، مثلا يسبح قبل النوم، يعني يسوي هذاك، يعني يسوي لنفسه جو عشان إنه ينام وهو مرتاح، مثلا يروح يسبح.
عفوا نور شوي بقاطعك، أبى أتكلم. بس يعني نحن عبير، بس يعني إن هو نحن وظيفتنا إنه نغير الأفكار السلبية، يعني نحاول نعالج الأفكار السلبية في الجلسة
هنا
مثلا.
وظيفتك أنت ككونسلر، يعني إرشاد. فأنت هنا كإرشاد ما القصد إنك تغيري حد، القصد إنك توجهينهم هم عشان يغيروا نفسهم. يعني هنا مثلا إذا حد جاكم أنتوا جالس يتكلم بمشاعر جدا مضطربة، إلى الآن أنت مي ونورة ما قلتوا لي إن هذا شيء طبيعي، ما هديتوني، على طول نصائح. فهنا تأتي نمط الفيكسينج، يعني كأنك تصلحيني، كأني أنا الحين حسستيني إن أنا عندي مشكلة يعني كبيرة، لازم أتصلح، لازم أسوي هذه المجموعة من الأشياء عشان أنا أتصلح. فالإرشاد هنا لا، مختلف. الإرشاد هنا إن تعملي كأنه انعكاس للمشاعر اللي جالس يحس فيها العميل. العميل أصلا جالس يتكلم، بس هنا أنتوا تبوا تصلحوه، يعني أوريدي أنتوا حسيتوا إنه هو عنده مشكلة. يعني
Okay. Sorry, Abir, how many minutes did most people get to practice, or?
Yeah, we practiced with 2 counselors, and then I was the same client, so they sort of did the back-to-back, and now we're just reflecting on it.
Perfect. Okay, let's come back to the big group. I'm going to close the breakout.
Okay. Perfect.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Artaza. Okay. So who wants to share what that experience was like for them, who got to be a counselor? Okay, you do? Okay. I'm going to unmute you, Artaza.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Tell us, please.
So I was the counselor.
You can open your video. It'd be nice, so people
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
more of what you're saying. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
So nice to you.
So I had the opportunity of being the counselor in the situation, and my client was discussing a problem about her husband cheating on her and there not being enough love and trust in the relationship. It was a very eye-opening experience, honestly, because I am a very extroverted, passionate person, and I can come up very strong with my opinions sometimes because I'm a very opinionated person. So after Sura, she witnessed our dialogue, gave me some few suggestions that I have to be very soft in my approach. At least in the beginning, it should be very soft. Even if throughout the session, I have to keep my calm and not being too assertive or being dominant in my conversation with her, with my client, whoever be it, and whatever their problem is. It has to be in a way where the client feels comfortable. The client feels like I'm being a better listener and not passing judgments. So yeah, it was a really good experience for a person who talks a lot. I do talk a lot, as you can see. So I'm trying to minimize that.
And it's a great thing. And by the way, I'm so extroverted, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just, and if you see how I'm talking now versus how I talk there, it's different, right? There's different tone.
Because immediately I feel like we can connect. We have the same personality. Yeah.
Very similar, yeah. May, can you tell us why empathy was difficult to, I'd really love to hear why you think empathy was hard concept to practice. I'm gonna try to unmute you.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, it was difficult for me to practice empathy because I was like more tending to ask questions to understand more the problem.
So you kind of went into problem fixing mode more rather than just reflecting and hearing their feelings, right? Yeah. So were you able to overcome that? Like, what did you try to do to develop that empathy? First, was the person, could you see their face, or was it a closed video? Because like that makes a difference.
Yeah, closed.
Okay. So that plays a role. If you're not able to see the video of the person, it can be a bit harder. But we still do phone counseling, so I mean, it could work, right? But maybe what's kind of important is in situations like that is to put your problem-solving mode, or like the savior complex that we talked about yesterday. I don't know if you were there yesterday, but the savior complex of me wanting to rescue, and put it on the side and be like, no, let me just listen. And you constantly be thinking, okay, what does it feel like to be this person? What would it feel to be in their shoes? How would they experience the world? And these are good questions to try to get yourself into that state, huh?
Yeah, I was more focusing on the problem rather than focusing on the person.
Yeah, so moving that can be helpful. So rather than focusing, I need to ask so many questions, just listen. All you need to really be doing is listening. That's the key skill of a good counselor, is a good listener, not someone who's good at asking questions. That's a thing that we do, but the key thing is actually being a good listener. Anyone else has anything they want to share? By the way, it is 9 o'clock. I just realized. And we have a little bit to talk about. Are we okay to go over?
Yes, okay.
Okay, cool. Anyone who has an issue, please let me know. I'm going to take one more person to talk briefly, and then we're going to get back so I can quickly go through the content before we end. Anyone else want to share how that experience was for them? Okay, let's go back. So the last thing we're going to be talking about is boundaries and self-care. So what are boundaries? Boundaries are defined with limits which other people indicate what we find acceptable in their behavior towards us. So they're my red lines. So what I find acceptable and what I don't find acceptable. So there are two types of boundaries. We're talking about internal boundaries and external boundaries. When I'm putting an internal boundary, it means I'm actually creating an imaginary boundary between myself and others. So I'm separating their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions from my feelings, my thoughts. This is really helpful so I don't get lost in the empathy. A big part of empathy is I have to be able to separate what's mine and what's the client's. So let's say suddenly I'm in the session and I'm feeling anxiety. I need to ask myself, is this mine? Is this my anxiety? Is it theirs? Sometimes it's mine, sometimes theirs, sometimes it's both. So I have to remind myself, okay, this is not mine, I give it back to them, okay? But a big part of what we do in therapy, this goes under theory of Winnicott. He's another famous psychodynamic practitioner. He talks about containment. So the job of the therapist is to contain the client. What does it mean to contain? So basically the client comes and they're like a mess, everything's like a mess. Or their emotions are a mess or something's a mess, and The containment is either they give you that mess and you organize it with them, or you organize it and give it back to them so it's more manageable. So this is really important in this for me to be able to separate what's mine and theirs, because then my stuff are going to go down in the mess as well, right? So if the majority of it is my client, as a therapist, I sit with the anxiety, reminding myself this is hers and not mine. And then once the session is done, I remind myself, okay, go away, anxiety. This is not mine. This is client X's, and I leave it behind. External boundaries are the external boundaries that we're putting with our clients. So this could be agreeing on a method of contact. So right now, online sessions, face-to-face sessions, but, you know, avoiding contact outside of the session. So only seeing them in the therapy space, you know, meeting at an agreed time every week, maybe once a week, maybe every Sunday, maybe any day of that week. Another important boundary is maintaining the time boundary. So depends if you work from 50 to 60 minutes, but not being longer, not having one session an hour and a half, one session 2 hours, one session 50 minutes. That time boundary is really healthy because it stops you from being too emotionally involved. And that's what internal and external boundaries do. They help you be there and support the client without being involved in the client, you know? So the last thing we're going to talk about, burnout and compassion fatigue. I can't do this anymore. Burnout is the most frequently characterized as a syndrome of physical and emotional exhaustion, and it results from the development of, I can have a negative self-concept, negative attitude towards work, a loss of concern or feeling for people. So that can be very dangerous, right? If I'm a therapist and I'm not concerned about people anymore, because it means I'm basically not able to do my job. And I might be actually jeopardizing people's well-being by counseling them when I'm not able to empathize or be with them, you know? Burnout is also defined as the imbalance between the physiological resources of an individual and the demands being made on those resources. So me basically giving more than I'm able to give, you know, overstressing myself, overstretching myself, you know. When we give more than we actually get, you know, we burn out. And like a really famous saying in the counseling world is, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, you know, you need to be filling up your cup. Or glass in this case. Burnout and compassion fatigue. Being a counselor or psychologist actually has the highest rate of burnout, statistically. And psychologists and counselors are actually prone to something called compassion fatigue because of the nature of the work that we do. Compassion fatigue, it's a feeling of chronic stress, emotional exhaustion, tension that's often felt by therapists, counselors, anyone who actually helps people. And it's very common that we develop this at some point in our careers because we're actually experiencing and hearing on a day-to-day basis stories of abuse, rape, trauma, death, and, you know, a lot of disturbing things, you know? So this phenomenon manifests itself in a lot of ways, and it's different from person to person. So when I'm giving a lot of empathy to my client, this could make me feel drained. This doesn't mean that I stop giving empathy. My job as a practitioner is to give empathy to my client. If I'm unable to give empathy, I'm unable to do counseling. Let's make that clear. It's the key component in a good therapist. But what happens is we need to put clearer boundaries and do more self-care to protect ourselves from being burnt out and compassion fatigue. So with compassion fatigue, some people with therapy or some psychologists or counselors could develop secondary trauma. So this happens when a psychologist is exposed indirectly to trauma through the voice of their patients or clients. Other psychologists experience symptoms of anxiety, depression, being really exhausted, very overwhelmed with, you know, taking all of their clients' emotions, but probably not being able to give it back, so not putting the internal boundaries. So compassion fatigue all has one common denominator: lack of self-care. Necessity of self-care as a psychologist and counselor. I remember I found this really frustrating in my master's program because they kept telling us, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, but they never taught us how to take care of ourselves, and they put us through, you know, insane things. My master's program required us as a big group to counsel each other. So we had to counsel 30 people, and it was all our work and all our therapeutic stuff. All our essays were done on ourselves, analyzing ourselves. So it took a lot of emotional burden on us, but they didn't teach us how to do self-care. So as a counselor or psychologist, we need to know that we have to take time for ourselves. And when we fail to, we can start doing poor coping mechanisms. I might start overeating. I might start smoking. I might start doing a lot of harmful, things for my health. So like yesterday, I quoted a part of BACP ethical framework. And like I elaborated yesterday, I'm using this because this is the agency that I'm licensed by. So, but a lot of other frameworks, ACA, APA, any licensing agency in the world will have similar things. So taking care of yourself as a counselor or psychologist. One of our ethical duties is actually to take responsibility for our well-being, because if I'm not taking care of me, I can't take care of my clients. This is just as important as taking care of my clients. So I can do this by taking precautions to, protect my physical safety in the counseling space, maintaining my physical and psychological health, making sure that I'm resilient and resourceful, releasing my stress, seeking professional support. So if I need therapy, I go to see a therapist, If I need extra support, I seek that support, And the last thing is keeping a healthy balance between work and other aspects of life. So what are some types of self-care? I mean, the list is endless, but journaling is a good one, mindfulness meditation, writing, arts and crafts, physical exercise, yoga. So anything that's really also allowing us to channel our negative energy into something creative. Okay, so we are done. We can take a couple of minutes to talk about this, what self-care means to all of us, and how do we practice self-care, or we can just spend time doing questions the last couple minutes. It's up to you guys. Since I know we are over, so we can skip this if needed. Any votes? Let's see. Yes, questions. Okay, cool. So let's take another, 5 minutes for questions? What time is it? It's 9:10, 5 more minutes for questions. Is that okay, Abia?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be much faster if they unmute.
Yeah, I think so
I'm
too.
not going to push for people unmuting anymore. If you want to unmute, please let us know. But if not, then you can just type the question. Someone is asking if there are going to be more sessions with you in the future. I don't know, Sura.
I mean, so me and Abir, we have a tight relationship. So Abir is, the head of the psychology team, Youth Oman. And, she, how did you approach me, Abir?
I don't know.
I don't remember how we met.
So nice. You never refuse anything.
I was part of her team in the beginning, but when I opened Oasis of Hope and everything, I just didn't have time anymore to contribute as much. But I really value all the stuff that their team does, so I'm always willing to help and do workshops and so on. In addition, I do have my own counseling center, and I see clients there, and I do a lot of workshops. And they're ranging different topics, and I do a lot of mental health initiatives. So if you're interested for more workshops with me, probably with Youth Oman when they ask me, or you can also attend our, come to the center workshops. I just did one on Saturday that I put on YouTube in Arabic that talks about how to deal with anxiety during COVID. So, I mean, I'm doing workshops on a regular basis right now, I think.
I think in regards to our team, of course, we're honored to have you. Anytime you want to offer a session, we'll always offer on it from our team. But please, everyone, you have to follow Oasis of Hope. It's literally one of the best counseling centers.
And Counselor Sura, that's my personal account.
So
Da'aya for myself.
She's really generous when it comes to these things. So follow her center, follow her own Instagram page, and I don't think she ever disappoints. That's the good part. So myself and Rani, inshallah, it won't be the last session, but for Miran, only
this is the last.
Would be the one. Okay, inshallah, in the future.
Any other questions?
There are 2 questions in the chat. Do you have access?
Okay.
Can you see it?
Let me see it. It's not coming up. The chat today is weirdly glitching. Yeah, I can't read them. Can you read them to me?
Yeah, so Sophia is asking, as a Muslim, I always think of the nature of work as a psychologist in a non-Muslim country. Do you have any background on this? And it scares me sometimes that I won't be accepted to work there as people have different views of us Muslims. So maybe your experience working as a Muslim counselor in a non-Muslim setting? I think that's the question.
I mean, I think it can be different. I mean, I think it can be difficult according to where you live, because people could make quick judgments about Muslims. But I mean, my experience in Edinburgh was really interesting. I mean, I worked with primarily white people. I mean, one of my internships was at the university center. So that I worked with primarily white people. Another was out of my own interest. I worked at a racial ethnic minority center for women that are suffering from sexual abuse or so on, domestic violence. And those were primarily because it's a racial ethnic minority in the UK. I mean, there were mostly, a lot of them were Muslim women. So, I mean, counseling is judgment value free. So I think as long as you can prove yourself in terms of credentials, then you prove yourself. I mean, I think it's really your experience, your knowledge, the way you approach counseling, the way you approach clients that, you know, can really make a difference. You know, in the beginning when I started working, I would only get clients that were Arab girls or like Arab people in Oman, for instance, because, you know, I wear the hijab, I'm Omani, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, because I've been working a lot and there's word of mouth and so on, you know, I have a lot of expats that are my clients now. So it's just about really proving. There can always be barriers. Like I remember when I just started in Edinburgh, like it was always like, oh, but you're so young, how can you help me? You know? And that was something in the beginning of my counseling profession that I really struggled with, because I look like young sometimes. I feel like I used to look younger back then. I'm not sure what that means, but because I don't get this remark anymore. But because I looked younger than them, or, you know, some of them were in their 40s or their 50s and so on. So they're like, what would you know? Or like even the other day, I had a new client, and she was saying something like, oh, but you know, you're not married, you know, how are you going to help me, you know? So I think that's when psychoeducation comes into play, and you just explain, you know, it's not about my values, it's not about my experiences. I don't have to be, for instance, sexually abused. Don't use this example. But I don't, for instance, have to be sexually abused to, you know, be able to help someone deal with sexual abuse, right? I think really our ethics, our ability to do our job will always reflect back, no matter what barriers. There might be barriers, but I think if you're good at what you do and you're confident, you can probably wow them in the interview and wow the clients when word of mouth gets around, right? I hope that answers your question. It was like a long-winded answer, a little bit.
So if there's anyone that has another question, I think that's a wrap. So on behalf of our team, oh, she's asking for your email. You can.
Oh yes, I said I'll share it now.
Yeah. Okay, so on behalf of our lovely team and our psychology of youth volunteering team and all our Miran participants, thank you so much for participating, and thank you, Sura, for such an amazing workshop. I love the breakout rooms. I told you I didn't do it before, but now I think it's going to be my thing.
It's so interesting and fun, right?
Force everyone to go on breakout rooms and talk. But thank you so much for a great workshop, and thank you everyone who's still with us. I know it's been a bit of a long workshop, but of course every minute is valuable. So thank you so much. And if everyone, for those that are Arabic speaking, we have another workshop tomorrow on intelligence testing or psychometric testing, but it's going to be in Arabic, and we also have a lot of workshops to come. So please keep in touch and keep checking your emails and checking our Instagram for any updates. And again, thank you, Sura, for your time. She devotes a lot of time into these things. I wish everyone would appreciate how much time she puts in her crazy schedules. But thank you so much. I know how much you're busy. But thank you. Truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.